Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Red Laugh Riot podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Ben. Well, let's just get into it. The first segment of the show is called Reading the Headlines. And this is where we go to the top of Reddit and we read some headlines. And that's it. Right. So, first headline is, what do you know, from politics. Activists pledge $1.9 million to Susan Collins, Democratic challenger, if she votes to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Sounds like something along the same lines of what we talked about last week, that this guy, Kavanaugh, was in the headlines last week as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. Still continuing. I don't know about this added on thing. So that should be interesting how that plays out. I mean, in terms of context of where we're at the moment, in terms of in the political year, we're about a month out of the midterms. So that means that voters will basically decide. I think it's the Senate from memory. Um, don't quote me on this because I may completely screw it up, but I'm pretty sure it's the Senate where they vote for their senator every 2 years. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that the Democrats can win a couple of those midterm elections and take the Senate, because at the moment the Republicans have a majority in both Congress and the Senate. Um, yeah.
I see.
Politics,
And when I say
people.
I see, I mean I have no idea what any of that means.
Do I need
Right.
I feel like at some point, Ben, I need to sit you down and explain politics to you.
I mean, I sort of at least understand New Zealand politics, at least a lot
Yeah.
more than anything going on in the US or overseas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I know more. I would say I know more about American politics than I do about New Zealand politics, and I think that's because American politics is
Really?
just much more interesting than New Zealand politics.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Designated Survivor?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because like that show was interesting until it turned into just a show about politics. So I stopped after about 4 episodes because it was just like it was all about the politics, and it felt kind of boring to me. Like, and it also felt kind of unrealistic. Like, I felt like there's no way that's how people would act. But you might be interested in that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's on Netflix. I think it's 2 seasons out so far. I think.
Right. Interesting.
All right. Well,
All right. What's the next headline?
next headline is a toddler shredded $1,000 that his parents had been saving for months, but they're in luck. The U.S. Treasury has a team of experts that piece destroyed cash back together and could repay the amount in full. What?
What?
This is from uplifting news. So a toddler shredded $1,000 of cash, which for some reason his parents had in cash. It feels like a lot of money to have in cash lying around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the U.S. Treasury is somehow able to piece every bit back together, which is a bit crazy because you'd think you wouldn't be able to use it. You'd think it would go out of circulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a rule that it's still. I'm not sure what the case. I'm not sure which country it is. Whether it's. I'm pretty sure it's the US, and it may apply to New Zealand as well. That if you have an X percent of the bill it's still legal. It's still legal tender. So you can have like a rip in the corner, and it's still that's it. It's still money. I mean, not the bit that's the tiny bit that's been ripped off, but the like full bit that has like a little bit ripped off in the corner. That's still actually money, which is a bit weird as well. Also, I'm pretty sure I've handed over a bill that was like taped up or something. Oh yeah, because we call them notes, eh? And it's Americans that call them bills.
Yeah.
How weird is Americans are so weird. I'm gonna go on a rant in a minute about why America's dumb, alright? But before I do that, I handed over a $5 note and it was like it was taped up through the middle. And
Oh, really?
and when I was handing it over, I was at the dairy or something like buying something. Oh, for anyone who's not a New Zealander, a dairy is what we call a convenience store. Anyway, so I was at the dairy, and I hand over this $5 note that's like taped up, and as I handed it over, I was like, oh, I really hope he accepts it, eh? So I wouldn't have been then able to like pay for like my snacks. But luckily he took it because, that's part of the law. But here's my rant about why America is dumb, right? Okay.
Right.
Why is it? I mean, there's multiple things about America that are dumb, right? Like the fact that they don't use the metric system. Like what's up with that? The metric system is so easy to understand. It's like 100, everything's in hundreds or like thousands, you know? And it's like it goes
Yeah.
millimeters, then centimeters, then meters, right? And like 100 centimeters make like a meter and shit like that, right? Like it makes
Yeah.
sense. It's logical. But like feet and miles and stuff, it's like 35.37 feet is a mile or whatever. I mean, those
Mm,
aren't the exact numbers.
yeah.
I'm very aware, people, but you get my point. And then the other point is with because the Americans use Fahrenheit while we use Celsius. Now Celsius makes sense, right? Because the boiling point of Celsius is 100, right? And freezing is 0. It's such a it's very much a logical system. But with Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
it's like the boiling point is like 27, and then the freezing point is like 27, and then the boiling point is like 336 or something like that. And it's like, America, why? I'm pretty sure there's like 3 countries in the world that don't use the metric system, and America's like the only one that's like a Western, a Western democratic capitalist society that like uses it. And it's like, what are you doing? Oh, it makes me so
Yeah.
mad.
Makes. Yeah.
That's my rant
Oh,
over.
man, I love your rants, man. Everyone agrees with you. Everyone thinks it's ridiculous. But the thing is, it's just so hard to change now, especially something like that they drive on the other side of the road. That bugs me as well. But that's something you can never change because all their roads is designed to be that way. You just said, "Oh, now try change the other side of the road." It won't work, because like things like motorway exits and all that kind of thing. Like it would never work. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of the metric system, yeah, I don't know how easy it would be to switch. It'd be a lot of effort probably. I mean, it's like asking everyone to use the same currency, kind of. It's not like
Yeah.
there's an economy for measurement, but you know. And
Yeah, yeah.
the worst thing
I
I find about Americans is that they seem to forget that there are other countries out there. And so like there was a post on Reddit sometime this week saying PSA. Sometime this week, you're going to get an alert on your phone because the government's testing some alert feature. You get this weird alerts on your phone, like emergency alerts.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically one of those, but it didn't say PSA for the US or for Americans. It just said PSA in general, telling everyone that everyone's going to get an alert. But no, it's only for the people in the US, and people just People on the internet seem to forget that, and they just seem to assume that everyone lives in the US. It's really
Yeah,
frustrating. That's really
yeah.
annoying.
Another thing that America does weird though, right, is their dates, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we do day, what's the date, what's the month, what's the year, but they do month, day, year, right?
Yeah.
Which makes no sense because it should be the smallest amount, then the middle amount, and then the largest amount, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the
Yeah.
logical way of
Absolutely.
doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
if I asked you what the date was, right, you wouldn't go
Yeah.
October. You would go, oh, it's the 6th, right? Because that's information that I would need. So you would give me said information, being like, when is it? October
Just October.
doesn't help me
I mean,
whatsoever.
I might say October 6th, which is I think where they that was why they do it that way because they say the month then the date, which is
Yeah,
not a wrong thing to do. But when you're putting it in a number format, it's completely stupid. And
yeah.
what annoys me, at least I haven't found a way to do it to change it. But on Google Sheets, which I use making spreadsheets and stuff, you can't
Mm,
change the format to be uh the right way around. So I
yeah,
put in my dates as, for example, 6/10/18, and it
yeah,
thinks I'm talking about June 10th
yeah,
instead of the 6th of October. It's really
yeah,
annoying. So I have to, instead of actually properly formatting them as a date cell, they're all just formatted as text, so I can write it the way I want to write it. Really
yeah.
frustrating. But you can change that on like Excel, but you can't do it on Google Sheets, as far as I'm aware.
Huh. That is
Yeah, which is annoying
that is a
because
bit weird.
I prefer to use Sheets.
Yeah. I mean, I thought for a long time that 9/11 wasn't in. I thought 9/11 for a long time was in November
Yeah,
and not
understandable.
September. And
Yeah,
like
September 11th.
when I found that out, I was like, oh. I was pretty young though.
Yeah,
I was like in like primary or like intermediate or something
yeah,
when I found that out. But it was pretty funny. I was like, oh, right.
alright, yeah,
Like blew my mind.
cool. Well, now that Rant on America is over, uh, last headline for today is the A's fan who had a beer thrown on him and the Yankees fan who threw the beer went out clubbing together.
So
This is
wait,
from baseball.
so
So some
it was
guy,
it was a guy from the
some
Yankees and a fan of the
no, it was a
Yankees.
Yankees fan. The Yankees fan threw a beer at an opposing team's player,
Oh
and
right.
then they went out clubbing together. They met up. That's hilarious.
That's fantastic. What like I mean, firstly, right? Little PSA: don't throw stuff at athletes. Not cool. But
Unless you want to
on
go
that,
clubbing with them.
yeah, unless you
I
want to go
mean,
clubbing, that's pretty cool of the guy who got the beer like thrown at him though, because he could have just like been like,
yeah,
but he didn't. They went clubbing. That's amazing. Wow, the power of sport and alcohol, really.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, next segment. It's a segment inspired by the film High Fidelity, when they make a bunch where they throughout the film. It's a good film, in case you haven't seen it. They make a bunch of lists. Mostly, they do them little top five lists that they say to each other throughout the film. Um, that the main character and his friends do. So today we're gonna do the topic of top five musicians. So our own personal favorite top five musicians.
Slash
Shall
bands.
slash bands. Um,
Yeah.
in fact, mine are mostly bands. Full disclosure.
Yeah, start us off.
Yeah, so my number five is the late rapper Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, um, who was a very popular rapper during the 90s. Ended up dying very closely in close proximity in time as Tupac. So Notorious B.I.G. is probably my favorite rapper. And I've chucked him in there
Spoilers.
because yeah,
Now we know there's no more rappers on your list.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So he's definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite rapper. Um, in fact, I wasn't really into hip hop for a very long time until I watched a YouTube video by Vox that was analyzing rap music. And it was looking at how rappers rhyme with the beat, and Notorious B.I.G. was one of the rappers named. And I was immediately after listening to him, like blown away with his flow. So what flow means in hip hop is it's sort of how the rapper delivers their lines. So Notorious B.I.G. isn't a fast rapper at all. In fact, he was very slow in his style, a very laid back attitude on the mic. Um, and just how he daisy chained his rhymes was just amazing. So yeah, he's my number five pick, Notorious
Cool.
B.I.G.
Cool. Wow, you were able to talk about that for a decent amount of time because I was thinking before how like this list is not like top, like for me anyway, like top five movies or TV shows where like I feel like I have a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss. But this is just like I like the music. I don't really have any other way to explain it. But anyway,
Yeah.
my my number my number five pick is Lord,
Oh,
New
okay.
Zealand singer slash songwriter. Um, yeah, she's a really great writer, really great musician. I think. Um, I've been a fan. I've really only been a fan since maybe was it last year when her recent album came out. And then I went back and listened to her first album, which I hadn't properly listened to before, and I was like, wow, this is really incredible. It's really good. Now I'm just a huge fan. And I feel
Oh,
like it's a surreal injustice, like Lord, and this happens to a lot of other pop artists as well, but Lord especially because she's so good, she's so legitimately decent. It's kind of unfair because people only who think they know Lord only know like two or three of her songs from the radio, um,
yeah,
and they're usually not even the best songs.
yeah.
um, it's quite sad because yeah, I think she's really good. The music's really great, and not enough people are legitimately fans of Lord who listen to her actual music properly. Yeah, there we go. It's my number five.
Right. My number four is a band, um, who was sort of known as the more of a very much hit the peak of their popularity, I would say, in the early 2000s, with the new metal movement. Um, in fact, unfortunately, their lead singer um committed suicide last year or something, and so I was really sad about that. Huge loss to the music community. But that band is Linkin Park. Um, Linkin Park are
Mm.
great because they were really good at combining genres together with rap and with rock as well, and how they did that. Um, I think with songs like "Numb," "What I've Done," "In the End," "Crawling." So yeah.
I only know the ones from Transformers.
Yeah. So that's sort of what they're known for. But yeah, no, just
A
really
New Divide, that's the one.
New
It's,
Divide. Yeah. Um, just a really good band that I definitely really liked listening to, and all the songs were like incredibly well written, lyrics wise, and the raps, because so the lead singer was Chester Bennington, who was unfortunately the guy who passed away last year, and Mike Shinoda did more of the rapping side of things, and it was so cool how because they would start. it would have, these verses where um where Mike would be rapping, and then it would flip to the chorus, and Chester would sing, but he would like also do screaming as well. And like screaming and like shouting in music, I think it's very much a bad rap. Because people say it doesn't take talent and stuff like that, but I highly disagree. I would say there's fewer people who can actually scream and shout and it sound good. And it actually does take talent because
Right.
there's a technique to it that makes you
Mm,
not, lose your voice and damage your voice. So there is a technique to it.
cool. My number four is a band called London Grammar. They're a indie pop trio from not London, from no, I forgot. I think is it Nottingham. Yeah, and I discovered them a couple of years ago. They've put out two albums. They're both really, really great. And I saw them live about this time last year, September last year. Um, yeah, I just really enjoy their music. Um, it's kind of like smooth, chill pop, I guess. Yeah, nice. I'm just a huge fan. That's all I have to say.
Sweet, yeah. That means we've moved on to my number three pick, who's a band, unfortunately, with in regards to Linkin Park. Linkin Park was actually the um the band that I wanted to see live next, and unfortunately that's not going to happen because Chester passed away. But this next band, that's my number three pick, I actually have seen live, and that's the Foo Fighters. So the Foo
Ah,
Fighters, fronted by Dave Grohl, um, who's an amazing musician, such a talented man, um, and with, I would argue, probably one of the most underrated drummers around, Taylor Hawkins. I mean, what you have to remember is Dave Grohl used to be a drummer in another band, and so and Dave Grohl is considered also probably one of the greatest drummers of all time. So for Taylor Hawkins to be able to play the drums is in front of Dave Grohl is amazing.
hmm,
You know,
yeah,
like that's just something that was like, I think that's just a testament to his talent. Now Foo Fighters are great. They've had some amazing albums. Like Wasting a Light is probably one of my favorites. Um,
yeah.
Wasting Light was interesting because it was actually recorded on tape, which is very rare these
Right.
days.
Wasn't it in in a garage
Yeah,
or
it
something?
was it was recorded
Didn't
in
they?
Dave Grohl's
Yeah.
garage. Yeah, so
Still,
Wasting a
it
Light.
sounds incredible though, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. I would argue it probably takes more talent to actually be able to record stuff on tape than it does to record stuff digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the funny thing about the band's first album was which was self-titled, was that Dave Grohl recorded everything on that album. He recorded um every drum beat, every bass lick, every guitar chord was played by him, both rhythm and lead. Um, and so that's just that's just amazing. And I saw them live back in 2015 on their Sonic Highways tour, which is another album by them, and they were amazing. They're such a great live band. Dave Grohl is amazing. Such a talented man. Um, I could probably talk about my love for the Foo Fighters for quite a long time, but I will stop because I'm probably boring everyone.
Nah, you're not boring me. It's fine. Um, I'll go to my number three pick then, which is a band called the Arctic Monkeys. Um, these guys, I
Yes.
first found them in 2013, just soon after their 2013 album came out. And it was just I'd never heard any of their stuff before, and I really enjoyed that album. Like I had that album on repeat just all the time. I loved it so much. Um, and then it was only like, oh sorry, did I say 2013? I mean, the album came out in 2013. I think I didn't start listening to them until 2015, actually.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, and then it was only about last year I actually went back and listened to their old stuff, to the earlier albums, and I also really enjoyed. I also really enjoyed them because it's like it was more like a more rocky kind of than their 2013 album, which I was, I guess, less into at the time. But then when I listened to it again last year, I really really enjoyed it. And favorite worst nightmare is just one of my top albums of all time now. It's really
Oh wow. The Arctic Monkeys, I was actually tossing up whether to put them on my list, and unfortunately they missed out. Um,
okay.
I think AM, which is that 2013 album. Unfortunately, I haven't really listened to much of their earlier stuff.
Okay.
But that's a fantastic album. Do I
Yeah,
Want to
it
Know, which
is
is
really.
probably, Do I Want to Know is probably one of their most, I don't want to say mainstream
Well
song
known.
considering they're indie, but like probably their most
Yeah.
well known. That bass line is amazing. I think it's one of the greatest, probably one
Yeah.
of the greatest bass lines ever recorded. Um, no, that's all I wanted to add to that
Cool.
part of the
Yeah. Have
conversation.
you heard the Have you heard their most recent album that came out this year?
I have. I don't like it as much as AM, but having
Right.
said that,
Yeah.
it's definitely very much a tonal shift for the band. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I really appreciate when bands do that and they have a different style every album. Because what I would hate, I don't want to have the same album over and over again. That's what happened to Paramore. Like their first three albums are almost identical, basically, in the way they sound.
yeah.
But you've got other bands like Muse, like for example, who is another band that will change kind of their vibe and their style every album,
Mm,
and I feel like it really works. Um, you've also got Maroon Five, who did something similar. His Their first album is one of my favorite albums ever, but I can't put them on my list because I hate what they do currently. But I'm not I'm not saying that they should just repeat the old stuff again, but
mm,
they've still done, yeah, they've still shifted and tried something new, which is good. They've just kind of gone in a direction that I'm not a fan of. Um, yeah, I appreciate that. And with the Arctic Monkeys' most recent album, I guess I was really pumped for it because I was excited for something new and fresh that felt like AM. But then when I listened to it, it was like it wasn't like that. It was just super chill and nice. But I did really enjoy it. I actually listened to it the first time on a plane because it literally the album came out online like half an hour before my plane. So I downloaded the album so I could listen to it on my plane on the plane ride. It's real. I still really enjoy it. I think
yeah,
it's really nice and smooth,
yeah. I mean,
easy listening.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, it's definitely a move away from guitar-based music, which is what they more are used to, and sort of, yeah,
comparing it to their older albums as well, like Favorite Worst Nightmare. You'd think they're a different band,
mm,
but
yeah.
I love that. I love that there's so much variation in that. Yeah,
I mean, another interesting thing to note with the Arctic Monkeys is the fact that the lead singer Alex Turner sings with a British accent. I don't know if you've noticed that, but because most singers,
right.
regardless of where they're from, sing
Yeah,
with a American accent. So that's interesting too. That was something that sort of sparked my interest in them as well.
that's a good point. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
really noticed it because I knew it was British, so it felt normal
It felt normal. Yeah.
to
Um,
me. Yeah, I didn't feel out of place or anything.
Sweet. All right. So now we're at my number two pick, which is the band. Oh, so this is probably the band that got me in to rock, and probably the first band that I actually got into that was like not the first good band or music artist that I got into, because before when I was younger, I listened to really bad music. Um, which I think you're allowed to do when you're that little. I
Yeah.
got into them in year four. and have been a fan with them ever since. I got to see them live last year, and that band is Green Day. So
Yeah.
Green Day consisting of Billy Joe Armstrong on lead guitar, Mike Dirnt on bass, and Trey Cool on drums. So that album that I was talking about that got me into them was, of course, American Idiot. I've since listening to that album, I've listened to every album since then. Um, Dookie is another amazing album by them, as is 21st Century Breakdown. Um, yeah, so they're an incredible band. They sort of started off with a very much a punk vibe and have sort of gone more alternative. I mean, the problem with punk is that it's you can't be a punk band and be successful. Like that's the quote unquote rules, but that doesn't really make
Mm.
sense because punk's supposed to be about like there being no rules. So that's kind of an
Right.
oxymoron, and a contradiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I know that's something I find very interesting. But yeah, no, just a fantastic band. Incredibly well written songs. Um, oh, what else can I? Just a band that I've liked for such a long time and have never really. It's a band that I can always come back to, um, and listen to, and I'm never not in the mood to listen to Green Day. Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
got into Green Day around 2009 with 21st Century Breakdown.
Oh,
Um,
wow, yeah,
that was kind of the only era and time where I was interested in Green Day though. I think after that point,
right,
I kind of my interest trailed off. I found other things, so I haven't really listened to them since then either.
right,
Um, but yeah, for a time, I was interested in Green Day as well.
yeah.
Um, and something has happened which I don't think has ever happened on this podcast before. It's the first time ever. You and I have something that's the same on our list. My number
Really?
two pick. My number two pick is Foo Fighters. Uh,
Oh, wow. Oh, I
so
love it.
we've done it.
We've done it,
Four
Ben. We
podcasts
have
in,
done it.
we've found a common interest. Yeah. Um,
Oh,
I mean, we've had other common interests that weren't necessarily in each other's top fives. So, but yeah.
yeah.
Um, I got into Foo Fighters probably around 2008 or 9ish, because I get at least half of my music taste from my brother, my older brother, who had quite an extensive music collection, and I would just
Right.
steal all his albums, which he'd stolen from the internet, so just stealing from a thief, whatever. Uh, um, and yeah, I just always liked them, I guess. But I mean, and honestly, I only used to listen to their 2009 album and then Wasting Light, and then it wasn't until last year or the year before that I went back and listened to their old catalog as well, which I really enjoy as well. Although for some reason I can't listen. I don't enjoy listening to their first album, or his first album, as much. To be honest, I don't know. I find it fascinating, but it's just I think maybe I have to listen to it again. Last time I tried to listen to it, I didn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
But everything else I really enjoy. And I also watched the whole Sonic Highways series that they did. That was really interesting. Um, yeah, because if you don't know how they recorded Sonic Highways, they went to a different city in the
Yeah.
US
Yeah.
for each song on the album. There's only eight
Mm.
songs, but was it eight? Yeah, it must have been eight.
I think it was eight.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a really interesting journey that they took, and seeing the different locations and the history that they've dug up, was really interesting. Yeah, I encourage you to watch that show if you're a fan. Um, and yeah, I do find Foo Fighters fascinating, and like how he recorded the first album as well is a really fascinating story. And
Yeah.
that they came up with the name Foo Fighters so that people would think that he was a band, and then they formed the band to do the live tour.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen them live, but I've heard them
Mm.
from my house because the stadium in Christchurch was about, I don't know, a kilometre or two down the road from where I lived, and I could hear them out my window when I think my brother went to see them.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would add stuff to the conversation, but I don't think I can say much else without repeating myself. Um,
Yeah.
as I already mentioned. But yeah, you did pick up some of the stuff that I forgot to say. So that's good. So we've
Yeah.
reached my point of honorable mentions. Now I've put myself on a limit, to five honorable
Oh, really?
mentions, but I could literally probably have every other artist I listen to on this honorable mentions list.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
because like I said, I don't want to trail off, for too long. But I'll do it just briefly. So Pink Floyd is one of my honorable mentions. Pink Floyd, fantastic band, real psychedelic vibe to them, and they made incredibly cool music. Another band, Led Zeppelin, um, who I believe were 60s, 70s. Again, really cool vibe, very much blues, a little bit of blues undertones with their rock. Um, Third band, the 1975, who are a pop rock band from the UK, that I really like. Um, yeah, I really like their vibe. It's very much occasionally does have like a little bit of an like I want to say 80s like synth tones infused in it, which is really
Yeah.
cool because you don't really get that much from modern music. Um, Another option, my only um pop artist on this list is Troye Sivan,
Right.
who actually used to be a YouTuber, but has since released music and sort of become more of a music artist, who's really cool. I love his music. It's really interesting. And my final honorable mention is Kendrick Lamar, um, who and I mean everyone knows about Kendrick Lamar, hip hop artist, rap artist, rapper, um, who he was also one of his songs was on that video that I mentioned that actually got me into hip hop. Um, and I think that's one of his best songs, where his flow is amazing, um, and how he's rapping to that beat is really interesting. Um, and that's
Ooh.
my honorable
Well,
mentions done.
I didn't limit myself. I've got 10 or 15.
Oh,
I'll just
Ben.
quickly. Well, we never established that we had a limit. Like, come on, you can't limit. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I listen to all these guys on a regular basis.
Mm.
Um, yeah, they're in my like playlist that I just shuffle around
All right,
all the time.
rattle them off, Ben.
Okay,
Rattle them
we'll
off.
go real quick. Actually, officially, I'm going to say that these first two are my official 6 and 7 because they're so close to that list, but I couldn't put them on there, and that's Paramore and The Naked and Famous.
Okay.
Um, and then the rest of my honorable mentions are in no huge order, but Ben L'Oncle is actually a French artist. I really enjoy his music. Black Fox Trio, it's a Christchurch band. It's actually my brother's old band. They don't really exist anymore, but I love their one EP that they put out. Muse, I talked about. Coldplay, Ed Sheeran, Florence and the Machine, Wolfpack. Probably never heard of them. They're a great time. Some classics: Huey Lewis and the News and Michael Jackson. I love their. I basically only listen to their greatest hits albums, but I like that stuff. I mentioned before Maroon Five. I just love their first album, The Ting Tings. Also, I just love We Started Nothing. And then I've also even got Justin Bieber, who I only listened to his 2015 album, which is truly a thing of beauty. Everything else is total trash. Uh, Jack Garrett, Ralph, Kygo, One Republic, and this guy named Sam Sacombe or Sacombe. I don't know how to say his name. I actually found him on Reddit. He's actually a huge fan. He's a huge fan of my number one pick and hugely inspired by him. And I really enjoy his music. He's got an EP on music and Spotify and stuff as well. And then another Christchurch band by the name of Sunset Synth, who still, I believe, still exists. And they do they're an 80s inspired band. They do kind of synthy, fun stuff. They've got like 5 songs online as well. Really good time. You should check them out. And that's see, I did my whole honorable mentions a lot faster than you did your top five. I mean, your five honorable mentions. So the number really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's just
but I
you know.
limited to myself to five because I knew I would talk so much
You
about
did to
each
it,
honorable
right? Okay,
mention, so I had to limit myself.
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So my number one is a rock band who were based in Seattle, um, who sort of came out of this the Seattle area, Aberdeen actually, and to be specific. Um, they were most famous in the 90s for leading the grunge movement. And if you haven't worked out who it is the band Nirvana. So Nirvana were made up of, in their most common formation, they had the lead singer of the lead singer being Kurt Cobain, the bassist Chris Novelisk, and the drummer Dave Grohl, who was obviously previously of the Foo Fighters and would go on to form the Foo Fighters after Kurt Cobain's death in 1994. Nirvana released 3 albums. Their first album was Bleach. Their second album was Nevermind, and their third album was In Vitro, or whatever it's pronounced as. Um, yeah, so a incredibly amazing band. They've released more songs than just Smells Like Teen Spirit alone, which is what everyone knows them as, and it's probably not even their best song. Um, they also do songs like Come As You Are, About a Girl, Something in the Way, You Know You're Right. In fact, probably You Know You're Right's probably my favorite song by them. It's hard to pick, but that's probably it. Um, and then they also had an amazing performance on MTV Unplugged in New York in 1993, I think it was, right before Cobain's death, where they did two amazing covers. One of which was "The Man Who Sold the World," originally written by David Bowie. And the other song that they did was amazing. That was a cover, was "Where Did You Sleep Last Night," which was an old folk song. Um, and that song is amazing. There's a moment during the recording of it. You should search it up if you haven't seen it, where Cobain, he his voice cracks and he looks up like at the audience, because his eyes are closed, and he opens them, and just the look on his eyes is one of the most. There isn't even a word to describe it, but like how it makes me feel, that look is like, oh, like every time I watch that video, I get chills. Um,
Wow,
yeah, so that's my number one pick, Nirvana.
nice. I knew it was going to be on your list because when you were talking about Dave Grohl, you said he was previously the drummer of another band. You didn't say the name of the band. It's like, well, he's always trying to hide the name drop there. Yeah, good to hear. All right, well, my number one. I it's funny. I'm looking at your list, and it's like basically all like rock bands plus a rapper. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like it's all quite consistent. Whereas my list's fairly diverse. I've got some pop, like indie pop, and some rock and alternative on there as well. And then
Yeah.
my number one is basically none of those things. He's kind of a bit of pop, but he's not hugely popular, if that makes sense. Well, he was a little while ago. He is in the US anyway. That's John Mayer. So
Oh.
he's mostly he's a like a blues guitarist slash singer songwriter. Also, yeah, basically he's one of those artists like I was talking about before who shifts a lot with each album. So he started
Mm.
off in more kind of poppy kind of stuff, and then he went into blues, and now he's kind of, or then he went into like kind of country vibes, not full on country, but like country infused blues,
Right.
slash rocky kind of stuff, and now he's like doing some kind of funky bluesy, synthy kind of stuff as well. Well, not synthy, but kind of like poppy. He's getting more into that kind of funky poppy stuff. I just love his amalgamation of different genres and things. It's really incredible, and just hear constant new, different genres from him is really interesting. Yeah, I don't know why. I've always been a fan. First album of his I listened to was his Live in Los Angeles album, which is still the best album he's put out. Basically did it in 3 sets. He He did the first set where he just did acoustic stuff, which is just him and his guitar, and it's beautiful. And I think he had another guy on a guitar in there, actually on stage. But and then the second set is with his band called the John Mayer Trio, which is him, uh, Steve Jordan, the drummer, and Pino Palladino, the bassist, who he's worked with a lot on a couple albums. And they have their own album as a band as well, which is really great, which is its own thing. And so they did a set, and then John did his full band set as well after that, and just John Mayer is just one of the best live musicians I think ever, that at least currently is working today anyway. Um, like I heard him live 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, and he still hasn't announced. And he just last year did a tour for his most recent album, and never announced an international tour to do Australia, Japan, or New Zealand, which is sad. But hopefully, it should be happening. If probably actually more likely like 2020 maybe. If he does another album potentially next year. Yeah, I just love his music. It's really great. It's really just good times all around. Really,
Mm.
that's all I
Um,
that's all I can
I
really say.
personally
Yeah.
haven't listened to John Mayer. Um, but there is a quote by him that I really like. And that's who I am who I am as a guitarist is defined by my failure to become Jimi Hendrix, which I really like. Because
That's very interesting.
Jimi Hendrix is definitely, and Jimi Hendrix was actually one of the people that I had to leave out, of my list because otherwise I'll talk about him for too long. Um, is easily the greatest guitarist of all time, and I think it's very difficult for anyone to disagree with that point. Ben, I want to ask you a quick question before we get into our next topic. And that's
Uh-huh.
in regards to with music, do you listen to songs by listening to just songs, or do you listen to full albums?
Oh, good lord, no. Well, what I do is I listen to albums. I do like to listen to albums.
Hmm.
I I I hate the idea of the whole idea of what the radio has done to people's minds and the way they listen to music is how they most people only think about songs like, oh, what's my favorite
Yeah.
song, or this song, or that song, like let's play that song or whatever. It frustrates me. It's like, or you play something, it's like, I've never heard this song before, instead of thinking about who the artist is. That's really what it's about. And so yeah, I like to listen to albums when I can. Um,
Hmm.
but also, I mean, I have a full playlist of about 1,500 songs that I constantly add more music to, and so I shuffle that, and it will just play song by song. But it's not just the popular songs like everyone else will listen to. It's everything. Um, but yeah, that's why when I was talking last week about shortcuts, I think I must have mentioned it, but I did make a shortcut that will shuffle albums. So it takes that playlist that I've got and will shuffle the order and play entire albums one after one after the other in a random order. I like
Right.
yeah, I wanted that for a while. So I do enjoy listening to whole albums as a full experience, and I would never ever ever dream of shuffling a single album. Why would you do
Yeah.
that? They're in.
They're in
that's
that order. They're
that's
in
my
that
little
order
rant.
for a reason.
Absolutely, especially gapless albums. Like Coldplay and stuff do this all the time, um, where you have songs that flow into the next song, like
Yeah.
literally, like the same sound carries over, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
A really good example of that is American Idiot by Green Day,
Okay,
which is a
right.
song that flows because it's a concept album, so it tells a story. So you don't get that
Okay.
story if you jump between songs and you don't listen to the full album. Um, Unfortunately, how I listen to music is very, very weird. And I've been meaning to sort of get back on the right track by listening to full albums. And there are albums that I do listen to fully, but how I listen to music a lot of the time is I find like three songs, like three or four songs, and I just listen to those three or four songs over and over again. And usually I only listen to
Really?
three or four songs at a time, and then I get sick of those songs, and then I find three or four. new songs, and then I listen to those songs over and over again, and I just keep repeating that process.
That is so so strange.
Yeah.
What? I don't get that at all. The thing
Yeah.
I love about having my playlist of like 1,500 songs, I didn't even mention Michael Bublé. There's an honorable mention I forgot about. I like his stuff. Anyway, or ABBA. Man,
Oh
listen.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
um, thing I love about my playlist is because I got so much music on it, I never get bored. I never get sick of anything, of hearing the same music or anything. I just, yeah, I
Mm.
constantly am enjoying myself listening to that playlist. Um, so I would encourage you, like, because what I used to do is I would used to go in to iTunes and just line up a bunch of albums to play one after the other, and I
Right.
enjoyed that because I like listening to whole albums. And like in between each album, I'd play like a single from my brother's band as well, or something like that, because I love
Yeah.
that so much. But then I got sick of it. I was like, I just need to do a whole, make a huge like playlist that I can just shuffle and just sit and forget, so that no matter what I'm doing, I can listen to that album, to that playlist. And I found that
Right.
really helpful because it just saves time. You don't have to fiddle around with albums or whatever. You just play the whole thing. And then now that I've made that shuffle album shortcut, now I have the choice to play the whole playlist on shuffle completely or to shuffle the albums as well, which is a lot of fun. Yeah.
So now we move on to our next segment, which is asking the age-old question: Is a hot dog a sandwich? There's only one correct answer to this. What is that, Ben?
I don't actually know what you think the answer is, but I think it's pretty evident that, and the answer is no. It's not a sandwich. It's a hot dog. It's its own thing. It's a different. It's like a different medium. It's a different experience completely. I don't know how else to explain
Thank you.
that. Well, I see you agree with me.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I've heard this argument before, and it's like, no, it's not a. Why would it? Okay, here's what a sandwich is, right? I'll explain what a sandwich is. It's
Yeah.
two pieces of bread with stuff in the middle. That's a sandwich. Anything other than that is not a sandwich, right? So a burger is not a sandwich. Why? Because it's buns, right? So that's a burger.
Right.
A hot dog, right,
Yeah.
is one piece of bread, right? So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it's not a sandwich. It's a hot dog, all right? Why would that be
Yeah.
anything
What
else
would you
other than a hot dog?
What would you call it though? Like if you had, the piece of bread that you use for a hot dog, but instead of putting a sausage or hot dog thing in there, you filled it with like pieces of bacon or chicken or whatever. Like what would you
Mmm,
now call it?
I
Do
don't
you still call
know.
it a hot dog?
It's still not a sandwich because it's still not two bread.
Oh no, it's
So,
definitely not a sandwich,
so what would it be? I
but I
don't
think
know. A, a, oh, I don't know, mate. A,
I, I don't know
a
if I've
hot.
ever seen that type of
I
thing
don't think
ever
I've
though.
ever
So
seen
maybe
anyone do that ever.
I think we've stumbled across a great idea for a food truck. But we need
I
to come up with a
think
good
we
name,
have.
otherwise it's not going to work. It's
Well,
like
if
a
it
hot
was,
dog bun because you call it a hot dog bun, right?
yeah,
That's what the bread's called.
yeah.
So it's
So would it
a
be?
hot dog bun without a hot dog.
Would it be? Would it then just be a bun?
Well, no, because I guess it's a bun, but it's not like what you typically think of
Oh,
as a
because
bun.
a normal bun is like like one connected thing, eh, of like bread, but it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Well, actually, no. A hot dog bun is just that, isn't it? It's just a long one, and it's got
Mm,
a slice down the middle where you can put the hot dog in. But I guess it is just still a bun.
yeah.
So it's just a meat bun. Is that what you call it? Just a meat bun. It's
A
kind of like a
meat bun.
taco or something like that with
Yeah.
bread instead of taco.
I think we've solved it, Ben.
Sorry,
I think we've solved it. I think
it's
we've
a meat
worked it
bun,
out. Yeah.
or it's either a meat bun or a taco-less taco,
I
bread
prefer
flavored
meat.
taco. I don't know,
I think I prefer
meat
meat
bun,
bun over not a
taco-less taco.
a
Yeah.
tacoless taco. I think it's a
I
meat
I
bun.
feel like maybe this probably isn't an original idea. I think this must exist.
It's
Like
got to.
people must have done this. Yeah.
Surely, it has to have been a thing before.
Yeah,
It's got to.
but yeah, to anyone who thinks that a hot dog is a sandwich, their mind is lost.
Yeah. If I don't know if anyone's still watching this live, but if they are, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section because we haven't introduced this yet. Do you think a hot dog is a sandwich? Let's debate. Um, Also, additionally, what are your top five musicians as well? Um, do you like any of the artists that we mentioned, or do you have your own? What did we miss out? Um, yeah, we will potentially answer them later on the podcast. Um, and if not, leave them on YouTube or our Facebook page or our Twitter or our Patreon. Um, Please feel free to support us on Patreon because that will help us to make better content as well as but however, if you can't do that because you're not in a financial position to do so, feel free to then just like us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube and support us that way. Any support would be greatly appreciated. And also check us out on our website, which is redlaughriot.com. That's redlaughriot, one word.com.
And yeah, for those listening to the pod after it's been released, if you didn't already know, we record the podcast live on Twitch as well. So if you want to hear it, if you don't want to wait half a week for it to be edited and come out properly, you can listen to the full live podcast and you can hear all our little mess ups and awkward pauses and connection issues, all that kind of good stuff if you're into that. And you can also join in on the live chat and ask us a question that we will answer on that show. The next segment of the show is
What you doing?
so this is the section where we talk about what we've been doing slash watching slash reading during the week and what we would like to do slash watch slash read in the following week. And last week I mentioned that The Good Place season 3 came out on Netflix. That was before I realised that, of course, they're only coming out one episode a week because it's a network show, and we're luckily getting it the same day as it is on the network in the US. So there should be one episode out every Saturday, I think, or Friday night or something. So I watched the first episode. It's great. And can't wait to see the rest of it. And then I also started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine season 5, which I think, oh no, I mentioned that last week as well. Last week I'd seen the first two episodes. It's really great. It was really interesting, I think, going into this season, having just finished watching Arrested Development seasons 4 and 5, and just realizing how much funnier Brooklyn Nine-Nine is than those two seasons, which is kind of sad because I love Arrested Development. It's a great show. At least the first three seasons are brilliant. And then I went into Brooklyn Nine-Nine season 5, and it's just still hilarious all the way through. So yeah, really enjoying that. And that's all I have been watching, and I've not finished it yet. So that's also on my list of what to watch next. I don't really have anything else coming up that I can think of. Except for Daredevil season 3, which is coming out soon, actually, end of this month, I think. And I'm weighing up whether or not I should bother to go back and watch season 2 of Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because I haven't watched those yet before I see Daredevil season 3. I probably should. They're just like, I can't be bothered. I'm not interested enough in those shows, so I don't know. I may or may not do that if I have time.
Right. So unfortunately, again, for 2 weeks in a row, I've been pretty slack. But to be fair, this week, I do have a good excuse. I've been on I've been shooting, unfortunately not for Red Laugh Riot, but I have been shooting my short film, um, for 4 days, which sort of made it very difficult to watch anything. However, I did watch, well, actually rewatched for I think the third time, the film Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is still a great film. It's a film I really enjoy. And as well as that, I've been listening to a Rooster Teeth podcast by the name of Always Open, which is a great podcast. They sort of talk about um, They talk about relationships and friendships and a lot of time mental health and stuff like that, which is really interesting and definitely a show, a podcast rather, that I really enjoy watching. As well as I've been watching the Joe Rogan podcast, or rather snippets of it, which is also a really good podcast as well. So that's what I've been up to in regards to things I want to see. I don't even know anymore what I want to see. My list of stuff that I want to watch is ridiculously big. So yeah, probably the same things that I mentioned 2 weeks ago. Um, that I
Yeah.
just still haven't gotten around to watching. Yeah, so that's my side of the segment done.
I guess that means it's time for the crunchy comments.
Which is where we usually we try and find comments that are left on the chat on Twitch or on last week's podcast, on any of our socials, whether that be YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Pretty sure it appears that we don't have any comments.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ho ho! We got a comment. We got a
No
comment.
way.
Damn. Yep. From KKN Malone. Does Subway cut their butt all the way through? But
Oh,
butt spelt B-U-T. Was that a typo? I don't.
I assume so.
I don't you meant to say bread? Does Subway cut their bread all the way through?
I think he meant
And that isn't. This is a legitimately excellent point. They're buns, right?
yeah,
Okay, he's just made a really good point about the whole Subway thing. Thank you
yeah.
so much for commenting.
Well, because they're considered
Yeah, they're
yeah.
considered sandwiches.
Yeah,
But you were
yeah,
saying
well,
how sandwiches bread,
yeah, well,
bread, then stuff in the middle, then bread.
they
But
considered
it's
us.
not like that. It's the same as a hot dog bun, how it's cut through the middle but not all the way through, except it's just on the side.
Yeah.
So actually Subway is a hot dog or a meat bun. It's not
No, wait.
according to the
But but they're considered a sub sandwich, right?
Oh, okay.
I believe
I
its full
see.
name is a sub
Is
sandwich, and the reason probably
that
why
what it
it's
is?
sub before sandwich is because it's not a proper sandwich. So it's sub. It's under a sandwich. That's what I reckon.
Damn. Right.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I've heard them being called subs. I didn't realize it's a sub. That makes a lot of sense because it's like
Mm.
kind of a half partial sub sandwich or
Yeah.
whatever. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Well, that was an excellent question, KKM
That was
Malone. Thank you very much
fantastic.
for listening and for
Thank you.
asking. That's
Yeah,
hugely
thank you
encouraging.
so much.
Um, See, that's why you guys, if you listen to the pod after the fact, you should join live. It's much more fun. You can ask us questions right there and there. All right.
Exactly.
Well, that was spectacular, and I'd say that does it for this week's show.
Yes, it does. And we've already plugged all our socials, so I don't think we need to plug them again. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time. I've been Matt.
And I've been Ben. See you later.
Goodbye.